Ministers meeting, High Representative Josep Borrell and the Swedish Minister of Defense Paul Jönsson will debrief you on the discussions held today. We will then move to your questions. So without further ado, High Representative, you have the floor.
Well, thank you and good afternoon to everybody. First of all, once again, dear Minister, dear John, thank you for organizing this informal meeting of the defense ministers. The defense ministers was devoted to Ukraine, mainly. It couldn't be otherwise. We had the Ukrainian Minister of Defense, our colleague Reznikov, who updated us on the military situation on the ground and explained which are the Ukraine's military needs. And we know after listening to Minister Reznikov that the next weeks and months, but mainly weeks, we are talking about weeks, will be critical because the military situation in the ground remains very difficult, in particular in Bakhmut, where the fierce fight continues. Then we went to analyze what we are doing to support Ukraine and what we can do more. By the end of this month, our military assistance mission will have trained more than 11,000 Ukrainian soldiers. And by the end of the year, we expect to have trained 30,000 soldiers. And all member states expressed their satisfaction about the results achieved by this training mission and committed to do more, especially when the battle tanks are arriving to Ukraine and the crews of these battle tanks has to be trained, not only individually for every tank, but in order for all of them to be able to fight together. This will take our training mission very busy. They are already busy. And this training mission is another proof of our unshaken and determined support to continue together with Ukraine. This is a key message that I would like to send to you, to send to the public opinion after this meeting. After listening to Minister Reznikov, I think that there is a clear message. To win the peace, Ukraine needs to win the war. And the Ukrainian armed forces needs our continuing support, in particular, and this was the core discussion today, on artillery ammunition. It was also the message that we have heard from President Zelensky some days ago at the European Union Council. And on that, time is of essence. We need to deliver more, but we need to deliver faster. And for doing that, I propose an approach which is based in 3 tracks, which are complementary. One goes with the others. They cannot be considered isolated. It's not one yes, but the others no. The 3 tracks goes together. First, we need a new support package through the European Peace Facility. We need a new support package for the reimbursement of the immediate delivery of ammunition that has to come from the national stocks already existing or pending orders, work in process, any type, NATO standard or Soviet standard, 155 millimeters or 152 millimeters. And for this support package, I propose to the ministers 1 billion euros from the European Peace Facility. Second, we need a coordinated demand in order to procure 155 ammunition, once again through the European Defence Agency. I insisted on the idea that we need to go in a coordinated manner to address the industry, an overall package of demand, adding the demands of the member states to refill their stocks and also to provide more for Ukraine. The European Defence Agency, that was created by the Lisbon Treaty and is in charge of doing this kind of things, common procurement, has set out a project for this purpose. And they can use a fast-track procedure to do it quicker. If we go together, we can reduce not only unit prices, but also we can reduce the delivery time. And the European Peace Facility can support these efforts for the benefit of Ukraine, and I propose to mobilize another €1 billion for this second track. And the third track, as I said, is complementary. We need to increase the European defence industry capacity to meet a massive demand from our armies. Not only for Ukraine, it's for our armies. If our armies provide part of their stocks to Ukraine, it's because they expect to be able to refill these stocks thanks to a bigger, stronger capacity of our defence industry. And for that, we need to support a ramp-up of our manufacturing capacities and to reduce the production time. We are in war times, and we have to have, sorry to say, a war mentality. I would prefer to talk about peace. I would prefer very much to talk about peace negotiations. But unhappily, I have to talk about the munitions because the war continues raging. And that's what we have to do today, keeping the door open at any moment for any kind of talk of peace negotiations. But today we have been talking about reducing time and decreasing cost of ammunition deliveries. These three tracks are mutually reinforcing and need to be conducted in parallel. There is a continuity between these three tracks. If member states are encouraged to dig further in their stocks, if they receive the guarantee that they can replenish their stocks because the European defence industry will ramp up its capacities, then they will be more ready to support Ukraine. We have discussing about that. I think I can say that it has been a general agreement on this procedure, but there are questions pending. Everything has to be discussed in detail. Everyone agreed on the urgency to move, because everybody agrees on the objective, which is to support Ukraine as much as possible and as quickly as possible. And with the support of the Swedish presidency, we will continue reaching out an agreement on a package deal at the next Jumbo meeting, which is as soon as the next 20th of March, where the Ministers of Foreign Affairs and the Minister of Defense will, I hope, reach a concrete and formal decision on that. To summarize, three tracks, €2 billion to provide quicker, more ammunition for the Ukraine to support the armies and resist the Russian invasion. Then we had a working lunch with the NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg and the United Nations Under Secretary General for Operations, Jean-Pierre Lacroix, and we discussed about foreign manipulation and interference. We have been gathering clear evidence of Russia's information manipulation. in the threat report on foreign information manipulation and interference that we published on the last 8th of February. And our cooperation with the United Nations and NATO has to increase in order to fight with these new threats. Because the fight is today not only on the ground, conquering land, it's also conquering the mind of the people. Public opinion matters, and public opinions are receiving a lot of this information in many of our partner countries. Last word, because today is the International Women's Day. Women are key for the resilience and stability of our societies. Their efforts are rarely recognized, but this is the day to do so. This is the day to recognize how important are women for the well-being of our societies and for our resilience and stability. In Ukraine and all around the world, women are also soldiers. Women are peacekeepers, women are peace builders, judges, and human rights defenders. Women continue to see their rights being challenged, and the European Union and its member states fight against that. Yesterday, we adopted a package of sanctions of 9 individuals and 3 entities for their role in committing serious human rights violations and abuses, particularly sexual and gender-based violence. This represents a broad approach to what's happening in the world. It covers 2 Taliban ministers. It covers the police in Moscow. It covers the militias in South Sudan, in Myanmar, in Iran, everywhere where violation of the human rights of the women in particular has been affected. We have been taking a list of sanctions. I repeat, Taliban ministers, higher education, and the Minister for the Propagation of Virtue and Prevention of Vice, the Moscow police station responsible for arbitrary arrest, high-ranking members of the Russian armed forces, whose units systematically participated in acts of sexual and gender-based violence in Ukraine, the commanders of the South Sudanese militias, responsible for the widespread and systematic use of sexual and gender-based violence as a war tactic in the country, the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs in Myanmar, in Burma, the Karchak prison in Iran, the Syrian Republic Guards, and the Office of the Chief of Military Security Affairs in Burma. All of them are being sanctioned in view of their roles in gender-based human rights violations on their sexual and gender dimension. I think so. Thank you.
Dear High Representative, dear Joseph, thank you very much for your statement. I would especially like to join you in your recognition of the efforts of the women fighting in the battlefield and elsewhere for European security in Ukraine. Sweden is fully committed to your important work on gender equality, and together with the EAS, work to promote gender equality within the full spectrum of EU's crisis management operations. Sweden has, together with several other member states, been part of a pioneering gender equality and gender perspective within defense policy and military operations. Today we work with the EU and member states in mainstreaming gender equality throughout both civilian and military CSDP actions. The importance of a women, peace and security agenda in the CSDP is also highlighted in the strategic compass. For Sweden, gender equality in the armed forces is a question of credibility and making sure that our defense organizations reflect the society that we protect. Let me also once again welcome you to Stockholm. I think we had a very productive meeting this morning, and with a particular focus also on continuing the EU support for Ukraine. Support for Ukraine is, of course, an overarching priority for the Swedish government, be it nationally, be it on a bilateral basis, or being it internationally. The Swedish presidency will work to ensure that the EU continues to deliver on the needs of the Ukrainian armed forces. We were therefore particularly glad to have Minister Resnikov with us this morning. During our morning meeting, the Ukrainian people is fighting for their survival, but at the same time also for European security, our freedom and our values. We are also glad to welcome Lieutenant General Andreas Marlov and Major General Petrov Turek from the German and Polish centers of the EU MAM Ukraine in today's meetings. Remarkable efforts are made by the Ukrainians, and we have the privilege to provide training. Unfortunately, more troops needs to be trained as the war goes on. Therefore, it's paramount importance that we understand the Ukrainian needs so we can adapt our training and provide support in accordance to that needs. The Swedish presidency welcomes the proposal put forward by Estonia and the External Excellence Service. We will move rapidly to address Ukraine's need for ammunition. And I think here the key is speed is of the essence. We therefore fully support the efforts made by the European Defence Agency to put up joint procurement. The EDA has a prominent role in the work ahead. Member states could support and also have a complementary role to a coordinating mechanism that the EDA, which the role of the EDA would be absolutely crucial. As the High Representative said, we also had a working lunch together with our partners, with the Secretary General Stoltenberg and also the Undersecretary for Peace Operations, Jean-Pierre Lacroix. I think it's very important also that we work on creating stronger partnership between the EU and NATO. We're very glad with the new EU NATO declaration that was adopted in January, and it's also very important that the EU and the UN works, especially when it comes to operations. And we now stand ready to take any questions that you might have.
Mats?
If I understood things correctly...
Speak louder, otherwise...
Yeah, if I understood things correctly...
Take the micro. Take the micro.
Okay. Both the EDA and the countries are supposed to try to ramp up the production of the artilleries, the grenades. Isn't there a risk if both EDA and countries simultaneously try to do this? That is sort of... you don't hear?
No, yes. Could you... we cannot hear you well, so if you can repeat the question slowly.
Okay. Isn't there a risk that if both EDA, the European Defence Agency, and the countries simultaneously try to ramp up production of artilleries, that they sort of instead of coordinate, there's a risk of that they both try to tap the same sources, so to speak, and then when they both go into the system.
If I understood well, if she understood well, you say that there is, you wonder if there is a risk of what?
If they don't, you've proposed EDA should coordinate this. If the countries simultaneously also try to ramp up production, isn't there a risk that they approach the same industries, that they sort of tap the same sources? There's not a coordination then.
Look, as I said, maybe I haven't explained myself well, there is three pillars because there is a continuity. If I am asking a member state to provide part of their ammunition stockpile to Ukraine...
No, this is the second part.
No, this is the first part. Member states will not be ready to do that if they are not convinced that they could refill their stocks. In order to refill their stocks, we have to make our industry to be more able to produce. The first thing for the industry to be ready to produce more is to have a clear signal of demand. Which is the level of demand? The level of demand would be determined by the common procurement. Not only, but the second pillar will send a clear signal to the industry that yes, they have to increase their capacity because there is, let's say, a potential demand that comes up not only for the member state but for Ukraine. And the third pillar, which is in the medium term, is to increase their capacity. So I don't see the risk. By the contrary, is a matter of giving insurance to eliminating the risk. The more the three pillars goes together, the less risky is for a member state to be deprived of their stock of ammunition because they will be sure that the industry will be able to refill the stock. So the three pillars, it's a matter of diminishing the risk.
If I may, I totally agree with the High Representative because the role of the EDA is to coordinate to make sure that we do that they are aware of what's happening in various capitals. So the coordinating role of the EDA is something that we fully support, and we think that's going to be crucial in order for Europe to be able to provide more ammunition to Ukraine.
Andrew Gray from Reuters. High Representative, on the second pillar, how quickly could that go? So how quickly could contracts be signed, joint procurement contracts be signed? How quickly could ammunition that comes as a result of that second pillar be in Ukraine and be used in the battlefield? And a related question, if member states follow your proposal, that will mean 2 billion from the European Peace Facility used just for ammunition, which means the new ceiling that you've set would be reached already. Does that mean you will be asking for a further top-up of the European Peace Facility?
Well, let's go to the second part of your question, which is the one I could answer better, because I don't have a crystal ball. Certainly, we decided a top-up of 2 billion. If we use this top-up of 2 billion for ammunition to Ukraine through two procedures, I understand now they are clear, the two procedures, the two lines of working, then certainly if member states wants to continue using the European Peace Facility, they will have to go for another. But this was not the issue of today. Don't mix things, because if you put everything, then at the end you decide nothing. Today the issue was what do we do with the 2 billion that we have already decided? And you want to do more, then you will decide for more. Certainly, if you want to do more, you will have to decide for more. But this is a high-level political decision that belongs to the leaders at the European Union Council on the 23rd of March. They will have to decide which is the level of engagement that they want to continue having, not only for Ukraine, but for other conflicts in the world in which we are engaged. How long does it take the second track? Well, I'm sorry, I don't have a crystal ball, but I know the procedure. Member states who are willing to participate, they have to agree on the terms of the procedure. Once we decide the total amount, then it's a negotiation between the 15 European firms that are able to produce this kind of weaponry in order to fix a price and a time delivery according with the amount that we request. And then once the agreement is being reached, they will start producing. It's not going to be short, but the sooner we start, the better. And I don't know any other procedure that can go quicker than this one. So I hope that by the end of the month, we can arrange with member states who are willing to participate. And this procedure is not the only one possible. There are other possibilities. I am not excluding that member states will like to follow others on their own. But if we want to go all together with a big package that includes not only the needs of the member states, but also the needs of Ukraine, I am convinced that it is the best way of doing that. putting together the expertise of the European Defence Agency and the expertise of the agencies of the national armies. This is a pan-European purpose that has to be solved and implemented with a pan-European spirit. Once again, it's Team Europe. But let's use what we have. The European Defence Agency was created for doing these kind of things. They have been working on the last 6 months to prepare this program. Let's put into practice.
Okay, my name is Ritva Rönnberg. I work for Swedish television TV4. Given what we have heard from Ukraine, that they lack ammunition, they're even losing ground because of that, how fast can the first rounds of artillery ammunition be delivered, given what we have heard here that you have told us yourself?
First, don't believe that we haven't been providing ammunition before today. It's nothing new. Since the beginning of the war, we have been providing ammunition to Ukraine. I can give you a figure. The European Peace Facility has reimbursed to member states about 450 million euros for ammunition provided to Ukraine. So don't believe that everything is new and until now nobody was providing ammunition to Ukraine. Yes, we have started doing that since the beginning, logically. The issue is that today the war has become a position war with an artillery fight, and is very consuming from the point of view of the number of shots that everyone is shooting against the other. Before that, the war was a movement war with less consumption of artillery. Today, there is a high-intensity war with a lot of shots, tens of thousands every day. So the needs are bigger. We have been providing, but we have to accelerate the rhythm. Every day there is ammunition coming from the European Union member states arriving to Ukraine. Every day there is a flow going on. The issue is it has to increase more and quicker. And that's why we are trying to push for more and quicker. But the flow has been flowing since the beginning. 450 million euros on ammunition. So when I'm proposing 1,000 million more, it's just double what we have already done. It's not a stratospheric figure, it's something quite usual.
Thanks, HVP. I'm here. I have one question. The first question is whether after this meeting you have a better sense whether there are enough ammunitions in Europe for this 1 billion coming from APF, or whether this 1 billion, in order to provide these ammunitions very quickly to Ukraine, will also have to be used to buy ammunitions outside the EU. Second question is on these reports, this in the New York Times. I understand that you say we wait for the final investigation. I understand that.
Okay. You say Nord Stream.
The second question is on Nord Stream. Whether you are afraid of the potential impact these kind of stories could have on public opinion in the moment when there is this actual push. You talk about, this morning Breton was talking about the war economy. You're also using a similar language. So the EU needs to change gear to do even more, but in the moment when there are these kind of reports. So I wonder, my second question is whether you are afraid of the impact these reports could have in key countries like Germany. Thank you.
Yes. I am asking to my Swedish colleague to help. Look, it's clear that we would prefer the European defense industry to produce the ammunition that we need. Because we need a European defense industry. We need the capacity to produce by ourselves. And we don't have enough capacity because we were used to live in peace, and the war was something that was not in our imagination. But today, in our industrial structure, the defense industry has to develop more. And certainly, we will be asking our firms to produce. And our firms will produce if we ask them, provide them with a clear horizon of which is the level of demand, as any other producer. If I am asking someone to produce more tomatoes, they will tell me how many and for how long. Well, how many and for how long is the question that we have to give to the answers. So priority to the industry, certainly. And some member states has been very clear on that. We want European money to be used to create jobs in the European defense industry. And we agree on that. And we will try to do it as much as we can. But if tomorrow a member state provides ammunition to Ukraine, taking this ammunition from their stockpile, I am not going to ask him, where did you buy it? I'm not going to ask him, where did you buy it? But for the second pillar, for the second track, when we go to the market and we ask the firms to produce, we will address us to the 15 European firms that could do it. We don't need to go to look after. And look, about the Nord Stream, these are serious things, very much serious things. First, never be afraid of the truth. I am not afraid of the truth, any truth. But we are talking about, by the time being, speculations, investigations on the exact circumstances are still ongoing in Sweden. Maybe you can say something about it, dear Minister, on Denmark and on Germany. And let's be serious, as long as investigations are ongoing, we cannot draw definitive conclusion. What can I say? I have to wait for having a clear understanding of what has happening. It has been a sabotage of the Nord Stream gas pipelines. Yes, it has been. It's clear. It means one thing. We have to be much more vigilant about the resilience of our critical infrastructure. Because what has happened with the Nord Stream 2 may happen tomorrow with a cable of optic fiber or an electric cable supplying electricity from one country to another below the sea. And we have already taken swift action to accelerate the work on protecting our critical infrastructure, the resilience on priority areas, and to give an answer to respond to the international threats through international cooperation, in particular with NATO. But about what has happened with the Nord Stream 2, I don't know. And as far as the one that could know, which are Swedish, Denmark and Germany authorities, I will not take any position.
Mr. Minister, would you like to add something?
Well, I don't want to speculate about this since it's an ongoing inquiry by a prosecutor and then being conducted in support by the Swedish Security Service. And as long as that process is ongoing, I don't want to jump into any kind of conclusions about the attribution. So I want to wait until the inquiry is finished. But I certainly concur with the High Representatives of the importance in general of supporting critical infrastructure. I think there's an increased awareness of that also in light of facts of hybrid threats being something we have to increasingly being challenged and exposed to as well. And that also goes down to our infrastructure on various seabeds. And there's various initiatives in different organizations on how to improve critical infrastructure.
Thank you very much. This ends our press conference today. Thank you to the interpreters, thank you ministers, and thank you to this impeccable organization. Thanks. you.